going on, everybody? We're back. This is Corbin, the Serpent Tongue Skipwith.
And this is Ren, the Berserker Marabou. And this is...
SAGAS.
All right. Welcome to SAGAS. Episode 15, bro?
Yep, episode 15.
Episode 15. Wow. All right. So this was your pick this week, man.
Yes, it was. So I'll introduce it, I suppose. We have the album Anti-Con or Anti-Icon by the SoundCloud famous rapper Ghost Man or Ghost Main, however it's pronounced. So,
yeah,
interestingly, I'll start from the beginning. So, I first discovered him off another rapper's project, Denzel Curry, off his album that he released on YouTube for free, Blood In and Blood Out. It's just like 20 minutes, unmastered, just a real fun, creative little like 20-minute EP. And the first song is called Charlie Sheen, which is funny. But Ghost Man, he's on that song. And when I first heard it, I thought it was 3 different people doing that verse because there was singing, rapping, and screaming. And I was like, oh, that's cool, 3 people. And then when I looked at the lyrics, it said just him. I'm like, what the fuck? This guy? So I searched him up in 2020, and I've been a fan of his since. So I figured this will be the one episode where it might get a bit of controversy, only because no doubt there's some purists out there who are just going to like turn this off straight away. They're going to be like, oh, how dare you cover this guy. But it's going to be an interesting ride to take, and I can't wait to dive into an artist like this. And this is definitely the most experimental album we've done so far. So with that being said, what was your initial reaction?
Yeah, interesting, because I'd never heard of him, right? And I was a bit dubious at first when I saw his Spotify picture. I was like, okay, right. So he doesn't really look like this, but generally, but this one, he obviously thinks it's a nice striking picture of him with like these gold teeth, but they're sharpened, and he has the one eye contact lens, and he looks like a new age version of Marilyn Manson kind of vibe. So straight away, I was a bit unsure what to expect. So I dived into the first track, and I was like, all right, this guy could do something interesting here. And as we listened to the whole album, I was very surprised. Talented chap, have to say, and he's pushing a lot of boundaries. So that was my initial thought on him anyway.
Yeah. See, one thing that to me, obviously, the short version is to me, this is like, I'm pretty sure I said it last week, but this Ghost Man is like the abusive stepdad of nu metal. I think that's what I said last week, and that's the short version. The long version is, I feel like most new metal bands, with the exception of Slipknot, who I don't even know if you can count them as new metal. I think they were tier 2 heavy. Everyone calls them new metal. I'm like, I don't think Slipknot. But regardless, bands like Limp Bizkit, bands like System of a Down, who do a bit of rapping, bands like Korn. I think for some bands, I think for some fans, a lot of new metal acts are more hip hoppy than they are metally. They're more hip hop than they're metal, and I think, like, to me, new metal is generally a genre for hip hop heads who want to listen to some metal. But I think Ghost Man is the one example of new metal for metalheads with a bit of rapping. I feel like this is more of a metal experience than it is a hip hop experience, because the instrumental, the production is a lot more heavy, dark. It's a lot more metal, like black metal, like noise metal inspired, with rapping in it, which I think is a big differentiator, which is a big difference from artists like Limp Bizkit, who was 90% hip hop, and then add a few guitars and drums in there. So to me, this is a true metalhead's answer to new metal.
Yeah, I mean, he's I was reading back about his history, just trying to get a scope on the chap, and he comes from metal. That's his background, his musical background, and he's a musician himself. He's a guitar player, and as far as I know, he was a drummer in a metal band. But speaking about the producer and new metal and stuff, they actually went for Ross Robinson, and sure, he's known as the godfather of new metal. So he's worked with all the greats, discovered all the big new metal bands of Korn, Deftones. And I think he's worked with pretty much everybody in that in that kind of world. So it is interesting because you say it's more of a metal vibe than a hip hop or anything like that. It's probably because of his influence as well. But as far as I know, doesn't he Ghost Man? I'm gonna say man because it's probably the cool way the kids say it, Ghost Man. Um, he produces and does a lot of the work himself as well on the albums actually, because there's this whole famous story about him. When he started off, he couldn't find anybody that would be able to, take the sounds from his brain and put them on record. So he decided to learn how to do it himself. I can relate to that big time. Going and doing it yourself, like it's the only way to get those crazy ideas out. But he obviously has a lot of crazy ideas, this chap, because crazy good, like really creative. He wants to do you know what? It doesn't even seem like he's actually trying to do anything in particular. He's just doing everything that he likes to do, and it just happens to work. It's a very strange mix. I mean, I love Ministry and Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson, all that kind of stuff, and he just has it in spades, and it's so sporadically sprinkled on every track. It's you couldn't even pick out one song and go, yep, that's the Manson track, that's the Nine Inch Nails song. And that's what's brilliant about him. I think he just takes all them influences and just culminates this whatever. He doesn't even know how to describe his own sound, like. But yeah, so he's definitely got something good going on in the new metal and Nine Inch Nails kind of vibe. But when you see him live, I was expecting him to be doing all of his live shows in like full costume and very elaborate, but he does a lot of his shows he reminds me of more of a rapper on stage sometimes, and he has the rapper mannerisms, and that the bounce and the hop for the crowd, and all the kids are going crazy like it's a proper rap show, which is really cool. But then sometimes you'll see him like in Lollapalooza he played, and he had all the goth makeup on and the long black trench coat, and it was very Marilyn Manson-esque. So he has a very interesting kind of look as well,
Yeah. The one thing that I find interesting is when I was Googling when I was Googling stuff about this album, this one article, I think it was by I forgot the time, but it was like they said the title, the main quote of the thing I saw was like purists leave now in describing this album, and I'm like that's a brilliant way to describe it, because to me the one thing I find really, and this isn't just this album, this is through his whole discography, but like it's interesting that it almost seems like a guy who has somehow really extreme split personality disorder, and we're like at it, like at any second he could be hip hop guy, metal guy, hip hop guy, metal guy. Just like it doesn't seem like the same person in the microphone. It sounds like two people, just like with two different personalities with the same voice. And it's like, obviously he has no problem screaming his lungs out. He has no problem yelling. He has no problem doing all that. And then at the same time, within a second, he switched to like a Bone Thugs and Harmony type hip hop type rapping style, like with the extended syllables and the really intricate flow. Just like, how are you going back and forth every song like that? Like, it's pretty impressive. And as I was saying with the first time I found him on that song Charlie Sheen, literally on the song he raps and then does this melody bit and then goes straight to death metal. And I'm like, what? This has to be three people. And again, so to me, I find it interesting. But also what I find interesting is he names his biggest influential band as Bathory.
Yeah, I know.
Bathory. And apparently he loved growing up Mayhem, Carcass, Death, as well as Outkast and 3 6 Mafia. Like, what an interesting, yeah.
It's very cool. It's like, you know, he does grab or pull from a lot of different genres, but majority of the time, cheers lads, I'm only halfway through my coffee. It's metal, you know. But then, you know, trap plays a big part in his music as well. And sometimes it comes in very unexpectedly, and it shouldn't work, but it does. But also, you know, there's a big techno, like, you know, like techno rock, like the Prodigy. There's quite a lot of that in there as well, like that 90s techno metal or techno rock, or as we used to call it back in the day. What did we used to call it? Electronica. I'm probably showing me years now, but this is this is what it was when it came out first. I don't know what you young kids call it nowadays, but it's pretty cool because he creates this, you know, dark sonic, murky kind of hellish sound. Um, Even though he's got this broad spectrum of genres that he throws in, you know. But speaking about his vocals, he is actually a very talented singer. Sometimes he can slip and go a little bit monotone or a little bit flat, but I think that's a stylistic choice. I don't even think it's a lack of ability, because you hear him on other tracks, and like he can scream with the best of them. You know, like a lot of the times he reminds me of Ollie Sykes from Bring Me the Horizon. And I've always loved Ollie's voice. It's very raw, but it's quite powerful and technical at the same time. You know, there's other parts of the songs like Vagabond, second track on the album, where there's like a Chester Bennington kind of Linkin Park sort of singing cleany bit. I actually find it's probably less obvious, but there's a couple of subtle, you know, Linkin Park kind of flavors thrown in here. Which brings me on to a band that I don't even know if they're still going. I think they might have, but the singer became very famous in his own right. He was called Boy in a Band. He's a YouTuber, and he has like red hair on one side and black on the other side. But he's this really just down to earth, creative dude, and he's very much like he's a producer. He does all that. But you know that quick fire rapping stuff that does go on in this album. I don't know what you call it, like a rap flow, like very quick fire stuff. Like, I don't know the technical term. It's not my genre, but that stuff very much reminds me of the stuff that Boy in a Band would have done back in the day. I think the band he started off with were You and What Army. They were signed to Red Bull. I remember getting this like CD free with a magazine or something. It was Kerrang or something, and I was like, wow, these guys are cool. It was like Linkin Park but techno, and then it had this, you know, quick. I'm just gonna call it quick fire rap lyric things, and you know, this guy Ghostman really reminds me of that, which I thought was really cool. And back then it was very unique. And the other thing that's interesting about this guy, as I read about him, he's kind of like a pioneer in a way, isn't he? Like of this trap metal kind of genre, right? So when I found that out, I was like, fair play to him, because he's only 31, you know, but he's obviously made a big impact, and he still hasn't even, he was offered it, but he didn't want to even accept a major label offer, which is pretty cool. Like, fair play to him. He signed to a label called Black Mage, Mage, Black Mage. And as far as I can see, he's the biggest artist on the label, and the rest of the artists are, you know, they have that like dark, sinister imagery in all their artists, you know. But yeah, he'd be the flagship or the forerunner of the label, which is really cool because, you know, I think one of his new videos has like 21 million views. So if he wanted to, he could easily take that. But I think they were taking too much control away from him. So ain't nobody want that.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Whenever I look at Ghostman, like on Google Images or music videos, he kind of looks like, to me, like a gothic elf from Lord of the Rings. You know, the elves?
Right. Yeah.
So pale. So
yeah.
So whenever I look at him, I'm like, you're from Lord of the Rings. But Nah, see, the one thing I really love about him as well, it's like, I think it might be on the second song, Vagabond, maybe, or the third, Lazaretto, but there's one of those two songs, it's like, it starts off with this hip hoppy flow and then like production, and then like halfway through the song, it'll just turn it into like a rock, it's like a metal breakdown.
Yeah.
And it's just like I just can't imagine a guy going from hip hop and then he just like within a second he's like, all right, let's switch it up. He must be an absolute riot to watch live. Because like all those styles, he just must be so fun. Because like 1 minute he's rapping, the next minute he's like you're like head bobbing. Like that'd be so fun. But yeah, and one thing I really like, just a small few things, like for example, the song ASMR, Antisocial Masochistic Rage. It's just like that's hilarious, like ASMR, but then he puts it like in evil context. I found that really funny. And the one thing I found funny also is like he has this dark, ruling, evil persona, but on the lyrics for the song Fed Up, one of the lyrics is I bought a crib for my mama. And it's like, that's nice. Like even the most sadistic looking fucks care about their mom and they want them to have a house. Like it's just I find it funny how in the middle of all this darkness and all this aggression and like pent up anger, he just halfway through the album he's like I bought a crib for my mom. I'm like, good job, you never forgot your mom. I thought that's pretty cool. But it's just these little small things, and like you said, because he has pretty much control of everything. He's not mainstream. He turned it down because he has all this creative freedom. He gets to literally explore with anything he wants. Like the sky is his limit, and he just takes full advantage of it. Most all I can describe it as is like a caffeine shot straight to the heart. It's just like put this in, and then all of a sudden you just start shaking and rocking. It's just like it's a pretty rad experience.
He's he's an interesting character because the lyrics are all very, like you say, dark and occultist and nihilistic. There's a lot of death references but then he throws in something nice and sweet about his mom. So. But when I watched the interviews with him, and he does seem very down to earth and very cool. It's just I find it very interesting. There's been a lot of people comparing him to Trent Reznor, and I think he's got quite a bit to go. But I think just looking at it, I watched a video of his progression from when he started, and he really has evolved very well. I love seeing that in an artist, like they don't just come out with exactly what they wanted. Because even for me, it took me a very long time to settle into where I wanted to be as an artist. Like, and it's a cool journey, but it's a hard journey, and you have to sacrifice. And he definitely blood, sweat, and tears went into his career, which I really, really respect because it took him a long time before he took on the Ghost Man moniker, what is he? He's like I say, he's 31. His real name is Eric Whitney, right? So he was born in Los Angeles and California, and he just went for it. He was in a couple of other interesting kind of groups as well, wasn't he? Suicide Boys and Schema Posse. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but they were all a bit more kind of rap or hip hop orientated. And then he was just like, right, well, I'm on this in this scene. I've worked with these kind of people. But I love metal, so I'm just gonna fuse it all together. And then luckily he came across one of the top producers in it, and here we are now. Like, and there was another guy working on the album as well called Arthur Risk, but it's spelled with a Z. He's worked with Cavalera Conspiracy and loads of other big bands like that. Like, he's worked with Max and Ego Cavalera, so like, that says it all. But I think artistically, that's another point that this guy has in spades as well. Like he's an artist in every sense. As far as I know, he's like he makes his own metalwork art pieces and stuff like that. And apparently there's a page on Instagram, and you can see on the cover of this album there's like this helmet type thing. Straight away it just reminds me of Hellraiser from back in the 90s, or was it the late 80s? with the man with all the nails sticking out his head. But that helmet, he calls it, his art piece called Helmet of Pain. So I thought it was pretty cool that, you know, he makes that and incorporates it into his music, you know, that kind of way. But you were saying about you'd love to see him live. I went on just to watch some live videos and stuff, you know. And there was this crazy scene in Madrid. Did you hear about that? No, they they got I don't know exactly what happened at the start, but they were playing in Madrid and it was a packed house. And I think the engineer was there was a stage engineer. Anyway, he doesn't know these bigger stages. There's an engineer up the back and there's one on the stage. Usually, the one on the stage is either house engineer or something to keep the sound on the stage right. But their own boy was up the very back. But whoever was running the sound on the stage must have pissed him off. I don't know exactly what happened, but you just see him throwing his microphone at him. Ghostman just throws his microphone at him. He's like giving it large, you know, giving out to him, and all the rest of the boys were giving it large to the chap as well. And all of a sudden, he just like, you know, smashes a guitar, and maybe it was a guitar, but I think he smashed a mic stand as well. That must have been a house mic stand. I wouldn't say it was theirs, but he throws it into the audience, and then he's like, "Right, I'm off," and he just stops the show, and that's the end of the show. But apparently, it turned into a riot. And you see all these people, like, because they were pissed off because the show ended, and he was trying to blame the engineer and the whole lot. So there was just he got arrested, I think, for kind of inciting a riot, because I don't know what went on. I didn't see any footage on the inside. People were getting a bit pissed off throwing things, but outside there was police cars and there was a couple of gangs up to no good. So he kind of instigated, well, not instigated, but incited it in some way. So he got arrested and he was in prison, or not prison, in jail for a couple of hours. But yeah, so you know, it's a unpredictable character, not even just musically, you know, which is, it makes total sense. You know, a lot of the time an artist, it's self-expression, and musically it's you know, it's very, what would you say, crazy. Like there's a lot of crazy elements thrown in. I think he has that in his personality as well. But like you said, he seems like a really cool guy, and he loves his mama, so respect to that.
I gotta ask, have you ever had any any crazy or heated live performance situation?
Yeah, a couple. But they never, especially recently, like people don't really. It depends on what kind of artist on the stage and what you're up to. But usually they don't want to mess, you know, that kind of way with a bunch of Vikings. But you know, back in the day, you know, I was in a band called Kerouac, and our drummer used to throw his sticks off at the end of every set. You know, it was part of his show. And one night, everybody used to love it. You know, it hit them, and they were like, "Oh, I got the stick." But one night, it caught a guy's girlfriend in the eye, and my drummer just decided to just, you know, do his thing and disappear into the background. But I had to deal with this 7.5 foot dude with his girlfriend with this drumstick, and you know, so it can get a bit hairy if you're acting wild, like Ghostman obviously does act a bit crazy on stage. But you know what, I was talking about Ollie Sykes and that whole screamo vibe. It's very remnants of that. Like, it's like their shows are always a bit on edge. They're a bit wide. You don't know what's going to happen. And Eric Whitney is very much the same, you know. And that's like a real rock star. You know what I mean? If you know what you're going to get and you know what you're going to expect, it's kind of like redundant, you know. So he just has like you never know what's going to happen. And I'd say his next album he's just gonna progress and progress and progress, you know, because at the minute I mean, how many, this is like 8 albums or something he's done, but only the last 3 or 4, as far as I can see, were bigger production and got the kind of the traction behind them. But I think the rest of them he was doing himself. But what's the Anti-Icon is this one, Noise, Hexada. I think those are his big ones, and maybe Plagues. I don't really know a huge amount about that, but yeah.
Well,
I actually, yeah, go on.
oh no, I was gonna say, it's interesting because like most of his work before this one, it was very horror punk inspired. It was very horror like, as the cliche goes, you know, horrorcore kind of like, you know, like the first track of Noise, the chorus is like the chorus goes ooga fucking booga. It's just like very like it's very horror inspired, so voodoo inspired. So this is really the first album where he's gone just pure metal. He's like
Yeah.
pure metal without any context. It's not horror, it's not this, it's not that. It's just metal and exploring all the varieties of it. And you know, it's interesting. I found out that he also, while doing this, he also has three different aliases that play metal. One of them being his alias Bader Minhoff that does black metal, Gasm GASM that makes noise rock, and Swear with a double R does electronic music.
No way.
So he has four if you include Grossman, four different aliases, and he makes music currently with all four of them. So it's like it's I love that because in myself I have so many different music genres that I love, and it's hard for me to express how I love all kinds of music so much. And it's like for him, he's literally going out of his way to make music that he wants in different. To him, he doesn't worry about but I don't normally make that kind of music. He's like, fuck that, I'll just make another alias. Like that's genius. Like he doesn't let anything hold him back from making everything he wants. And I find that really cool. And like I said, throughout the whole album, I just love how, because normally, like, I guess there are some exceptions to the rule. Like, I mean, I can't name any top of my head, but normally, like, they'll be like, you know, we use you as an example. It's like I can't imagine if one day you made an album and you tried to do all these different sounds in one. I think, I mean, obviously I can't judge you. You never tried, but like I can imagine it would be very hard for you to do like to suddenly start rapping and then electronic and then like it would just be a whole lot of stuff to do and to experiment with, and to have that all turn successful as well. Not just trying, but doing it successfully. For one guy, it sounds like a really hard job. So it's like I just can't give him enough credit for just doing all this and making it sound good, which so many times you can hear an album that tries to fit so much in and then it just turns out messier. It sounds bad messy. Obviously there's a good messy, but when it sounds like a bad messy, it sounds clustered, it sounds crammed together. That's when you're like, all right, you know, you get an E for effort, but this can't be a good thing because you're not utilizing it correctly. So yeah, I just love how he's able to get 5 or 10 different styles into one album and make it sound good.
Yeah, it's pretty seamless. Like, I mean, a lot of the time it sounds like it shouldn't work. Like, but for some reason it just seems to work. And I think that's because it's all natural to him, because it was his background was metal and hardcore punk. He was in some punk bands and stuff. And then he got into the rap scene and the trap stuff, and that became his thing for a while. As far as I know, those first couple of albums, that's what he was focused on, and then he got into taking all of his influences and mashing them up. But I think he's a guitar player, he's a producer, he's a drummer, like he's a musician, you know. So like when he's in the studio and he has like a trap beat or something like that, and he wants to throw down like a chunky guitar, he's able to do it. You know, he doesn't have to wait for somebody to do that. So I think that all speeds up the process and makes it all work really well for him. And as far as I know, he done more guitar on this album, did he, than any other album?
I think so, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a few people commenting on stuff like that, and you know, I was really happy when I heard that the guitars on this album was actually him. And I seen a video of him in the studio recording with a Slipknot signature guitar, as far as I know, and I thought it was pretty sick. Yeah, it's you know, I don't really understand the SoundCloud rap thing. Or a SoundCloud artist. that was something that kind of went past me. I was never involved. I never seen or I don't know much about it, but I've heard the phrase an awful lot. But it seems to be he's well broke out of that. He's well away from that now, and he's doing his own thing. But yeah, it was like there was a backstage, just him chatting, and he was on his phone, and he was like just pulled up his phone and done a quick Instagram, and within seconds there was like 2,000 kids on the phone, you know, sending them love heart after love heart after love heart. It's just mad. It's like he's got some trajectory. Like he's on a mission, and I don't know. It seems to be like I saw somebody described as well going to his show is like, you know, a class of kids, students, and then the teacher leaves the room and everybody's just going nuts. Like, you know, I thought that was a really funny analogy. Like, it's because that's what it looks like. You know, you see the shows, the crowd's going absolutely apeshit, and him and his band are going apeshit. Actually, his band, one I think it's the bass player wears like a mask. It looks quite Slipknot-esque, old school Slipknot with the all black, and you know he has like a good band behind him. Who is this? I don't know if his guitarist is still with him, but there's a Mark Bronzino was on guitar. He has a stage DJ called Parv O. His bass player that I was just talking about is Nolan Nunes. So everybody look out for Nolan Nunes because he's a bit of a badass. I liked him. And Kale Sands is the drummer. So he has his full live band, but when he's in the studio, I'm sure he gets the boys to perform. But I think he does majority of it himself. It's weird because, you know, I'm very open-minded with music, and I like to never judge a book by its cover. But when I saw this guy, I did judge it a little bit, and then I looked into it more, and I got the backstory, and it all opened up. It was like a book. You know, as far as I know, people don't actually know this guy that much. You know, he keeps everything you know, at a certain distance, and you can. He's portraying his art. He's portraying his artistic side, and I mean, like I said, he seems like a lovely chap when you're watching him in interviews. But it's cool that he's not doing that over, you know, come into my world and see exactly, you know, he's keeping the mystery there, the artist mystery. And that's what it used to be back in the day. Artists used to be larger than life characters that were untouchable, you know. But funny, you speak about untouchable. I seen another interesting video where some guy was giving him shit in the audience, and he said, "Come on up, let's go." And then they just all his huge bounces came out of nowhere. So he has like that entourage kind of vibe as well, which is really interesting. Like, so I don't know. He's living in on the fence of two different worlds. You know, it's so interesting. Like, but all the 90s elements that he brings to these, or the late 2000s, it's lovely for me because it's you know, that time frame was when I started playing music. So it's quite nostalgic sounding, a lot of the parts in this album for me. Like, you know, even from the very start, the very first song, it sounds like Corn, but like less complex. It's like a stripped down, simple version of Corn. What's the name of the track again? Intro.
Intro Destitute.
Yeah. He seems to put that at the start of all his albums, doesn't he? He writes intro and then the name of the track. That's super cool. Like, I love that because it's got like a pure Corn sound. You can imagine Jonathan Davis coming in singing on that, but then it goes 9 Inch Nails, and it's like, oh right, that's whopper cool. Like, I like that. But it's something that he seems to do really well. You know, you spoke about the track AI as well. AI, I was like, oh, it's about artificial intelligence, and then I copped it that the name of the album is Anti-Icon, so
Yeah.
that must be what he means. Like, there's all these little hidden little tricks in his lyrics and in the songs, which I love that sort of stuff, because like every time you listen to it, you pick up on something else, and it's good stuff. Like, you know, like I said, I'm open-minded to music, but I judged, but then only very quickly I discovered a very different artist here. You know, like there's Rob Zombie influences in there. You know, he has that voice that and it's, you know, it's not an overly difficult thing to do to have several different voices within your range, but when you do them so well, all of them, you know, that's where it gets a little bit less common, let's say. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear him doing more singing on the next album. You know, if he sang and had like lovely melodies, that's something that's he's probably working towards getting to, is melody. You know, you could hear some parts of really nice melodies cracking out in here. There was one track that had like a lovely piano piece at the end, um, with an acoustic guitar. You know, and it's very difficult, I'm sure, to put over to put. You know, it's not as easy to put melodies to trap beats. You know, because it's all like boom, those sub bass notes and those 808 kind of like a drum trap beat sort of thing. It's hard to get too much melody in there, you know. And well, he's getting there, and I think this guy has a bright future. I'd say his next couple of albums, he's not gonna be able to withstand the major labels in a while. They're just gonna come to him with an offer that he just can't refuse. You know, that's what I reckon with this guy anyway.
Well, yeah. Well, any major label that does refuse him, feel free to come to us. Hire us as the SAGAS podcast.
Yeah.
All the major bands out there, major labels out there. All right. So before we get into our devil's advocate, any sponsorships or anything you want to mention? Shout outs.
Yeah, I'm just looking here on my desk here in front of me. It's my wristband from my show the other night, and I think I want to take this moment to give a shout out to Capital, Music Capital. They're based in Northern Ireland. They're just an absolute joy to work with. They're brilliant people. So any artists that are out there that are looking to work with somebody in the north of Ireland, and I think he's branching out as well. Kieran Dunlop is an absolute gent and a pure professional. So I thought I'd just take this moment to give a shout out to them. And we had an amazing show in the Nerve Centre with them over the weekend at the 10 Festival. There's videos and the whole lot up there for you all to check out. There were some amazing bands. But yeah, if you're looking for a show and you're in Ireland or you're in any countries nearby and you want to come over, he's the man to get in contact with. He may or may not be able to hook you up straight away, but if you are good boys, he will hook you up. All good girls, you know.
Anything else you have to?
No, that's me for this week. I'll leave it with Capital Music. Capital Music for the win.
All right. So let's start. I swear every week I have three. It's the same three. So start off with the big man himself, the king of the PR, the personal reference that everyone should use, the powerful, resilient. I don't know much other PR words, but I was trying to spit off the top of my head. But Zach Moonshine, we call him the King PR. The King PR Kingpin, because when it comes to hooking you up, when it comes to representing bands, there really isn't anyone else better than him. He has so many clients under him that we can't even count. He's done so much for bands, probably done more for bands than anyone in the last 20 years. Like, surely he's just every day, every week he goes hard. He doesn't stop throughout the year. And he even gave us an album recommendation we did about 5-6 episodes ago. And that was really good because obviously he knows his music. Overall, great guy. And if you're a band or an artist that wants some representation, feel free to contact Zach at ZACH at metaldevastationradio.com. go check him out. I'm sure he'll be happy to hear from you, and you'll really be fooling yourself if you think you can find anyone else better. That is fact. So, second thing, I moved my reviews from Facebook to WordPress. Best decision I ever made, and you'll see me do about 3 to 4 reviews minimum every week. The maximum can be any number at this point. I do reviews weekly, and I even have my own domain set up, so it has a contact and a review. If you're just someone who likes to read reviews and likes and is interested about English and literature, go check them out. I'm sure they will impress you, and contact will go straight to my Facebook link where you can contact me if you're a band or artist in need of a review. And to find me, my website is serpenttongue94.wordpress.com. So go there, you find my website, and do what you will like. Lastly, as always, I'm going to give a shout out to Gas Digital Network. So lately, I finally had time to get up to date with the 4 latest episodes of Legion of Skanks, which was really good because I had to blast them, as I do always. Every episode has its own funny, unique script put together to make you laugh, to make you, depending on who you are, to make you laugh or to make you cry, you know, that kind of thing. But I imagine if you're crying with this kind of comedy, you should do it to begin with. But that's neither here nor there. Go to the Gas Digital Network. They have, I don't know how many shows, but maybe 30 or 40 shows and podcasts, all with their own different humor, with their own type of subject matter, their own kind of perspective. My favorite one is Legion of Skanks, which is dubbed the most offensive podcast on the planet, and for good reason. 3 comedians, all with different personalities, telling jokes that shouldn't be told, but should be at the same time for the sake of freedom of speech. You won't find anywhere else that does it stronger than them. And based on their last episode, it almost had me in tears. It was amazing, as always. It's just, they know how to make you laugh in the way that you shouldn't be laughing, and that's what makes it amazing. Go to their website. I pay Australian, I pay about $14 a month, and you get access to all the previous library of Legion of Skanks and all the other shows, all uncensored, all ad-free. And that's what you want from the service. So go there at gasdigitalnetwork.com, all one word, and get started with your subscription today.
Nice.
Well,
make you laugh in all the ways you shouldn't. I like that.
That can be a new motto. So it's time for Diablo's Advocate.
Diablo's Advocate.
That's amazing. So you want to go first this week or me?
No, I like it when you go. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. So I'll start with my favorite track, and I have a few reasons for this. So the reason for my choice is the song which you talked about, AI, aka most likely anti-icon. Is probably what I mean. So the reason why I chose this is because, to me, well, first of all, it's this one out of the most, probably this one and Fed Up probably have the most like hip-hoppy trap kind of vibe to it. And I love the way he mixes it with the metal. That's really cool. And also, especially talking about AI, I love the chorus. It's so, even though he's not saying anything except AI over and over again, it's just like, I love the combination of him saying AI in that screamy voice, and then the second part where he just does a guttural sound for like 4 bars. It's just like, this is so heavy. This is so amazing. It's just like, to me, this is the prime example of him, even though it's going to talk about album, the best one to me is him going, oh, you thought I could just, you think I'm just going to keep a hip hop? Well, think again. And then the chorus hits, and then it's just like death metal, like deathcore type of vocals. And it's just like, the vocals towards the end after saying AI, the guttural sound, reminds me kind of Mitch Locker from Suicide Silence. It's like how brutal and how guttural his voice was. He was one of my favorite bands growing up when he was still alive. And it reminded me, like, the guttural sounds, the heaviness, the intensity of it is a type that only really Mitch Locker could hit. And it's just like, so yeah, it kind of brings back nostalgia for Mitch. RIP to him, he died ages ago now. But yeah, that kind of guttural sound, not many people could do it as heavy and as despicably good as Mitch Lockerfoot and Ghostman does it. I'm not sure if he's even an influence of Ghostman, but regardless if he is or not, he did him proud of this. And I just love hearing that part because it represents it so well. My favorite, so my least favorite song, and this is kind of like cheated stuff. I think I'm about to pull a Rem this week. But I still better than what you did last week. But I'm going to choose the intro track only because, and for one reason, and yeah, this is probably a stupid reason in the overall scheme of things, and the more I think about it, the more I don't want to say it out loud because it sounds retarded. But the reason why I don't like the reason I'm choosing this, A, we have to, and B, the only reason I choose this is because normally when I'm listening to this album, I skip straight to song 2 just so the album can officially start. To me, the intro is just in the way of the album starting, which isn't a bad thing. The first song's amazing. Like it's an amazing piece of instrumental metal. But to me, the album officially starts, the energy starts at track 2 onwards. So for me, I just always find myself skipping the first track just because I want to get into it faster. So it's kind of really an unfair reason to choose the song, but I have to be honest, and I normally skip the first track. So unfortunately, I'd rather just get straight into the album and the intro blocking that. So just for the sake of it, I'm choosing track 1 as the worst song on the album.
You know, very good. That's the first time I think we haven't matched up at least 50-50. We're completely different this week, man. Maybe it's happened before, I can't remember. So yeah, that's really interesting that you say about Mitch Mitchell, isn't it, from Suicide Silence? His vocals are very random to him, and you know, he was a loss in the music industry. He was a great vocalist. I love that band. I'll never forget the day me found out that he had passed away. I actually was going out to play a gig myself that evening, and it was a bit of a bummer. Like, you know, it kind of unsettled me as I was heading out to the show ourselves. But yeah, that's a great song. I do like that. You know, I can understand what you're saying about the first track as well. Like, you know, I want to just get a couple of phrases that you use and like use them as catchphrases or something. But you know, the track is in the way. You know, I like that. You know, a lot of the time an intro track can fall into that it's in the way category. You know, and I think this is definitely one of them. Like, I love the sound of it. It was, like I said, Korn-esque and Nine Inch Nails-esque. But that's where that track ended for me. Like, it reminded me of somebody else. It wasn't him and it wasn't his music, you know. And when Vagabond kicked in, that was it. That was him. So I totally agree with you on that. But from my favorite track, straight away the title just hooked me. And I was like, yeah, that's like a title track that I'd write myself. Now, unfortunately, there's no lyrics in the song, but that doesn't matter. I have a second favorite, so that's got lyrics and it might make up for that. But Winds of Change, the Winds of Change, it's just, it's a soft spot for me, that kind of chord progression. You know, it, like I said earlier, it kind of like has a nostalgic kind of vibe to it. It's like this moody kind of chord progression, very remnants of like Sona and the Deftones. And I would absolutely love, I'd pay Chino to sing on that track. I'd love to hear Chino from Deftones singing on that track, where is like this weird kind of like background kind of screams, like, you know, all his weird sounds he makes. Yeah, I always do that. I listen to the song and I'm like, oh, I'd love to hear this artist and that and that. So that would be my favorite track. My second favorite track I would also like to mention, because if it wasn't for the chord progression, I'd actually love that to be an intro. I'd like Winds of Change to be an intro to Hydrochloric. I think that would be very cool, because that's one thing you done on this album. Every track kind of morphs into the next. It doesn't work on some of them didn't really match up too well for me, but it you know, definitely was something he was going for. And so you could kind of think of it that way if you wanted, but there's great Nine Inch Nails vibes off that with the scream and stuff. So, but it just overall the sound of the Winds of Change done it for me. But you know, came in close there, Hydrochloric. My least favorite track is a funny one because, you know, it started off as my favorite track on the album. And then I got to the halfway point and I was like, oh, that's not for me. So that one is Antisocial. I really liked that song until he got to the ASMR bit. And I love ASMR, right? I'm all for that. I love, you know me, man. I like to meditate. I like to chill out. I love my soft sounds, but I'm not digging on it. The mouth noises.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, maybe it's for his female fans or something. I don't know, but it kind of you know, because honestly, man, the song was kick ass. It had this really cool Marilyn Manson vibe, you know, and his vocals and the music, everything was brilliant. And then the minute I heard that, I couldn't do it. So like, I'm sure that it appeals to other people, but you know, that's all. So it could have been my favorite, but it became my least favorite. So simple, you know, artistic moves can just, you know, blow it out of the water for you. But that's it, man. Overall, I did think it was a very cool album, very cool concept. And he has a bright future. So fair play to him.
Nice. Another episode done and dusted. Can't wait. Eventually, once we get famous, like once we start doing more of these new metal reviews, people in the comments will be like, "Oh, keep it pure." Like,
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, can't wait for people to start giving out to us about what we're saying. Like,
yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah, it's coming. One day it's coming.
Yeah.
So, do you have your album?
Yeah, dude. I'm getting there. I'm getting close. Oh, sorry. Yes, I realized what you were saying. No, I don't have an album for this week. I thought I felt like we were off camera there now, and we were just chatting like normal. I was about to tell you about my own album, but no, I don't. I'm afraid. And you know what? I only realized as I came into the studio here, I was like, "Dang, he's gonna give out to me again." But everybody, I will put up a lovely picture and tell you all tomorrow. I will spend the day picking the most awesome album to chat about for next week.
And I'll be on him as well. I'll make sure. But actually,
he makes.
I was gonna say, if you want, while we're here, you may as well, if you want, tell the audience, the listeners, any Ren Marabou and the Berserker update.
Yeah, what's the updates? Well, you know, for the local band enjoyers, we have a secret show coming up. It's still in the works, so it's a secret, but there will be something to look forward to. If you're in Ireland and you're looking to come and see us, we have something cool planned coming up very soon. If you missed the show on Saturday, that is. But we also have a new single coming out as well very soon. We are going to shoot a video on Saturday, so I can't wait for that. Hopefully my cold is gone by then. I'm gonna go film a video up in the mountains dressed as Vikings as we do, and you know, have the crack. But the new album is getting there. It is Tales of Ruin is on its way. I just need to do a few more bits in the studio, vocally and mixing and stuff, and then we're done. So yeah, that's the Ren Marabou news. I think I'm probably forgetting something real important. Nobody else will be able to see this, but check this out, bro. Just to get your soundbite reaction. Look at Cass's strings. Cass's this is our bass player Cass's signature strings, and he was slagging me the other day because he's a bass player. He has a bigger package than mine, so mine are only like smaller, like so. Anyway,
wow.
Oh wait, I do have a pack here. This nobody can see this, but Corbin you can hear his reaction. That's like, yeah, bigger package, huh? Wow. Bass players, what can you do?
Yeah, well, if you guys are listeners from the first episode to now, you'll notice that now when it comes to mixing, Brenda's never left alone. I guarantee now that now with the mixing, you got the whole band standing next to you.
I've been warned. Yeah, I've been warned several times. Like, boys are wise to me now. Like,
that's hilarious. All right, so yeah, you heard it here. Tomorrow we'll get the update on what album he's going to do. And yeah, this has been the last episode of SAGAS. I'll get this uploaded immediately. As I do, the editor has his job. All right. Well, as we always say, same time, same place, or something.
Or something. Best of luck, everybody.